fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Sec's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Hello and welcome to SimSpeed TV for coverage of the Oceanic Sim Racing GT1 Challenge. We're at round 6 tonight, and that takes us to fantastic Suzuka circuit in Japan. Very well-known, internationally famous circuit, famous for the figure 8 layout, for the crossover, for the very technical, very fast S's in the first sector. This is a track with a lot of character and a few different minds about it. It requires a lot of talent, a lot of setup, a lot of skill to race quickly around here. And that's hopefully what we're going to see in tonight's race. I'm David Haynes. Alongside me will be Corey Ott, and we've got Jay Kennedy, our producer tonight. Corey, huge grid last time out at Bathurst. Little bit thinner on the ground here at Suzuka, but nonetheless, we've got all of our title hopefuls out there.
Yeah, exactly. You've got Bo Albert, Craig Edwards, and especially John Pizik from last week at Bathurst. He had so much pace in him, and as you can see at the moment, he is on pole in this qualifying session with about 12 and a half minutes to go. And, well, really, Suzuka, it's a really good track to race, but for some reason, it's just not a lot of guys like it. But at the moment, this grid is looking pretty spicy in that top half, with the top 6 cars separated by under a second. So tonight, with the low grid, we could see a really good race going on here for 22 laps at this circuit.
Yep, exactly. Qualifying underway right now, and then, as you rightly said, there'll be a 22-lap race ahead of us. Expecting pit stops for a little bit of fuel, but it'll be a pretty broad pit window where drivers will be able to take that, we imagine. So that's one thing to keep our eyes on in the race. Right now, we're keeping our eyes on Cameron Dance. He's 8th on the grid as it stands right now, just crosses the line, hoping to improve, and he'll move that up into 6th place. And that means that within 1 second, we've still got our top 8. And this is a pretty long lap around here. So we're seeing lap times nearly a minute 50. So anything within a second, percentage terms, that's still pretty close.
Yeah, it's a big layout, this circuit. It's stretching. It's a little bit shorter than Bathurst, but it is still a long circuit. So Michael Healy here is about to start another hot lap. He is at the moment 7th. He was just bumped off the top 6 there by Cam before, so he's only 0.8 off pole. So we could see what he can do. I don't know if he's got the pole pace here, but Trick SimSport Aston Martin is looking pretty good out there at the moment.
Yeah, and of course the 2 cars here in the GT1 Challenge are this Aston Martin DBR9 GT1, most popular, but there is at least one of the Chevrolet Corvette C6Rs in the field as well. I think the highest up of them is Marie Hruska here in 8th position. There's a pace to be found for the Corvette, but it's just a little bit harder to unlock, a little bit trickier to drive than the Aston Martin, which is the more favoured car, but certainly it's not necessarily the outright fastest, just maybe a little bit easier to get into than some others.
Yeah, the Corvette, as we all know, it is known for having a lot of torque out of the corners and straight line speed. But at this circuit, it's not about how much speed you can take out of the corner. It's about how much speed you can take through the corner, especially with the SS section, and also with the section spoon here that we're on board with Michael Healy at the moment. It's all about carrying as much speed as you can without losing any speed out of the corner. So it's more of a circuit about how much flow your car and how much turning your car's got rather than straight line speed. Because this circuit's only got 2 straight sections, this straight that Healy's on at the moment, and in the front straight just after the Casio triangle. So it's not about top speed, but more about how much your car can handle the turn.
Exactly, Healy taking it through what's effectively the final corner. Doesn't look like he was on for an improvement. He's abandoned that particular lap. Clearly not happy with how he came through 130R and how he approached the final chicane. Peasnick, well, he couldn't quite win last time out in Bathurst. Ended up with 3rd place. But now he's sitting on pole with the slimmest of margins over this man, Craig Edwards, who I believe still leads your points standings. So he's got something to fight for and every reason to try and find one more tenth on this lap. Hopefully put himself onto pole position. That's a crackingly close battle for the top step of the podium. And hopefully that translates into the race because Bo Albert just 1.5 tenths off the pole and just 2 tenths for Reece Goochel.
Yep, 2 tenths separate the top 4, and those 3, well, 2 out of the 4 are in the championship hunt. One of them being the points that Edwards there, just abandoning that lap. Peasnick is just about to start another one, so he could go better. His last full lap he did was 2 tenths off his pole lap, so he still thinks he can find time, but where can he find it? That's the question.
Yeah, John Peasnick and his teammate Reece Goochel sharing the same livery for JPR Racing. Quite a striking one, bit menacing, bit black on the back, but nice blue on the front, and in between, nice little orange stripes there. Of course, those two taking 2nd and 3rd spots on the podium this time last week, and they're both in the top 4 this time around again. Both of them clearly very quick, but when it comes to setting up that Aston Martin GT1, I think those two are working well together, and they've got something figured out that lets them both be up near the top and both be pretty consistent.
Yep, and as this series is an open setup series, it's the setup. It depends on your setup. It can help you a lot, but you've got to know how to drive this car, or a setup can actually help you. So these two drivers, Goochel and Peasnick, by the looks of things, can really lock together on, what part of the setup works best for them, and can really extract pace out of it. As Peasnick is coming through the infamous 130R, little dab on the brakes there into 130R, down to the Casio triangle. On the brakes, all the way down into 1st or 2nd gear, depending on their choice, over the curbs, out of the Casio triangle, down onto the front straight. What will it be? He won't improve. It was way off his pole time. I think that might have been a race lap, but we've only got 6.5 minutes left in qualifying, so Ashley Lee here on the screen. Into the Casio triangle. And I think he's either on an out lap or he's just about finishing a hot lap. No, he's on an out lap. He's on his hot lap now.
Look at where he is in the standings there. He's moved up 1 spot from 10th into 9th at the expense of Simon Black. It wasn't much improvement that he needed at all to grab that position, because you can see on the right-hand side, it's just 1/10 of a second separating those two, even if they are a little bit off the top pack. And right in the middle of that pack is this man, Reece Gardner. He's 4.5 tenths from pole. He's got Cameron Dancer, Michael Healy, and Marie Hrushka snapping behind him, but still needs to find a couple more tenths if he's going to move himself up a spot. He's in a sort of a Goldilocks position in the middle there. It's looking competitive, but it is pretty closely packed for that top 8.
Yeah, 1 second. Doesn't improve on that time, but 1 second around this circuit. It does seem like a lot comparing to other categories, but around here in this car, it's a really tight because of how difficult these cars are to drive and how difficult the circuit really is. So Edwards and another factor that we're going to put in with this car and this track is Suzuka is not really well known for its hotness, as you would like to say. Track temp 34 degrees, so a lot of quote unquote Asian tracks are not really built or suited for hot temps like this. So even at 34 degrees, the track could become and feel really slippery. So that's something that the drivers have to put into their setups and the way they're going to drive the car tonight. So
Yeah, precisely. The weather, we had a look at it there, partly cloudy which means that we can have clouds come and go. And right now, the sun's been out almost the entire qualifying session. It's brought the temperatures up a little bit. Any drivers who are looking to improve right now would really, really like some cloud cover to come over. And if we see some in the race, expect the lap times to tumble as well.
Yeah, if there was one to come over if there was a cloud or two to come over to the trackers now, we would see everyone go out there and try and get a lap in. But there's still enough time for some laps to come in. We've still got just over 3.5 minutes to go. So that's enough time for an outlap and maybe one or two if you're really lucky. But here's Cam Dance here, 6 at the moment in the number 6 machine. On another hot lap through Spoon he goes. That TTL esports car, GT1 car, does look pretty good on the outside. But Mr. Cam Dance would be very hot on the inside of that car as he tries to push it through 130R here. There's a lot of curb on the inside. Oh, that runs wide. That'll be an off track, I think. We'll see what he does here through the Casio triangle.
Yeah, certainly quite a few corners. Oh, he has a huge moment in the final corner and into the wall. There's certainly plenty of places around this circuit, like 130R, like Spoon Curve, and like through the S's, where you've got to be able to make the car turn in towards the corner, but if you've got not enough grip at the rear, a bit too much oversteer balance, you can do exactly what Cam Dance has just done. You can do what Peasnick's just done, where he had a bit of a wiggle through the first Degner, pushed it out a little bit wide. Really, really struggling out there now. We haven't seen many lap time improvements in the last 5 or so minutes. Everyone out there still circulating for the most part, just in case some cloud cover comes over. Right now, it's be a mega effort from someone like John Peasnick here to improve on their previous time when the track temperature has come up 5 degrees Celsius or so.
Yeah, the track temp likes to keep raising. It's now into the 35, so it will be for the race. It'll be a very one of those races that it's gonna be more about tyre degradation and if you can save the tyres over the distance or not, depending on how they've got their cars set up for camber and springs and everything. So I think Peasnick this time he won't get a good lap in. A little wiggle out of the triangle. These cars, as we all know, they do have TC traction control on these cars. They are very early 2000s TC, where the only place they work is on the straights. So it's more about your right foot out of the corners. The TC just does it when you're about to hit the wall. So see Simon Mazzomo here. He might be improving. It's a little bit dark. I think there might be a little bit of cloud cover coming over, but it won't be for too long. Simon Mazzomo comes across the line, won't improve his lap, but he's still got one more chance to do it with 48 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, ever so briefly, just the tiniest bit of cloud cover there. That's knocked 2 degrees off the track temperature. Maybe not enough for any of these people at the pointy end like Craig Edwards. Anyone like Simon Black, Chris Barnes, or Simon Mazzomo definitely have an opportunity to improve their times. And Craig Edwards is not going to be dissuaded from giving it everything he's got into the final corner, so deep on the brakes, tries to turn it in and the rear comes around. That'll be qualifying done for Craig Edwards. He'll be starting at best from second on the grid. Here's someone who could displace him. Reece Gutschel fourth, but ever so close to the two drivers in front of him. Nothing going on that lap, it doesn't look like. Might have just crossed the line in time to start another lap, did he?
He did. He crossed the line with 4 seconds left, so he'll be our last guy to set a lap if he can get a good lap out. But at the moment, it does look pretty well. We see a bit more cloud cover. The track has dropped down to 31 degrees, so Peasnick here locks it up. Goes a little bit wide. I think that'll be his qualifying.
Just like Craig Edwards, bit of a lock-up and a bit of oversteer trying to turn into the final chicane. So he takes the opportunity to practice his pit entry, which is of course going to potentially be very important in the race. Only a few more cars left out on circuit that can complete a lap. That's Wayne Hewitt, Simon Mazzomo, and Reece Guchel. And so Mazzomo here, looking for 5/10, looking for half a second to displace Chris Barnes and to improve from 12th spot.
The chicane very wide, just flips the AstroTurf out of the final corner. Rear of the car does not want to be powered at all, but that'll not help him at all. Style points, yes. Lap time, no. As Gushel now comes into the spoon corner. Very, very weird line there from Gushel into the spoon corner. Comes out of it now. Uses up all the curb that he wants to. Down.
Spoon corner is a very, very tricky one. Slightly off camber, and you're never quite sure how much speed to carry in and when you can get the throttle open.
On paper it looks simple, but doing it, massive snap over. That's another thing as well about 130R that just makes it so dangerous. It is the AstroTurf on the exit. It can hurt, and it did then. We'll get a replay of that one. That was a very hairy moment there for Guchel. We'd think it was a qualifying, not in the actual race. Get onboard shot of it here.
Yeah, he's come in with as much speed as he possibly thought he could carry, and then pinned the throttle at the apex of the corner, tried to hold on to it. That ride was just not going to stick. Unfortunately, put everything on the line in that final lap to try to improve, though.
And we'll now go through our grid of the race. We'll have John Piesnik start on pole by just the ever slim of 0.078 over Craig Edwards. Then behind them would be Bo Albert and Reece Guchel. And then Reece Gardner, Cameron Dance. Top 6 separated by only just under 0.8 of a second. Then you've got Michael Healy and Maria Krushka in the only Corvette in the top 10 starting from 8th position.
9th place goes to Ashley Lear. 10th is Simon Black. 11th, Chris Barnes. And the last of our drivers with a qualifying time is Simon Mazzomo. Doesn't mean any of these drivers, Sam Katakazinos, Wayne Hewitt, Ashley Ruskin, or James Allen, can't take the start, but we're maybe not expecting them to if they haven't set a qualifying time. Going to be a standing start today. So 12 cars with a qualifying time, and the top 8 very, very close, means that's going to be a good race to the pointy end. And with margins that thin, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of fuel saving, or a little bit of tyre conservation, it absolutely means anyone could come from a bit further back and challenge for a win. Or we might see a surprise on the podium. We just don't know here in OSR GT1 Challenge, but we're getting ready to go racing very soon for round 6 from Suzuka.
With this standing start, it's a you could start to resemble, if they really wanted to, they could resemble the Ayrton Senna Alain Prost incident into turn 1 here, where the famous Ayrton Senna quote was stated, but if you were smart, you wouldn't do that. So as every driver now rids up onto the starting line.
You can be a bit bonsai into turn 1 if it's the final race of the championship, but we're just at the halfway point here, and no one wants to throw away any points, especially with a point structure that so favours consistency and finishing and getting points at every round. Standing start drivers are going to be very careful about how they pull the clutch out. Last time we had a standing start at Donington, some drivers didn't get away so well. They're getting ready for it now. Time has elapsed.
Ooh.
Lights are going to go. And that's a jump start from Piesnik there, very, very plainly. And now the green flag is in the air. Everyone else gets going. We'll have to wait and see if that's a penalty for Piesnik, but that absolutely advantages Craig Edwards. Bo Albert, you can see him there in his mostly black car. He's jumped himself up into second place. Good start from him. Everyone's going to be careful. Reece Gardner has come around.
Reece Gardner, I think we had, Mazzomo, and I think we had Barnes and a couple others in that one. Gushel was in it as well, so there you go. One of the race contenders nearly out of this race before they even get out of 2. Oh, they were 4 wide. That might be an issue in the 1. And, 4 into 2. 4 into 2 doesn't go there, guys. But
Reece Gardner was just on the outside of Guchel, and Hrushka's come up the inside, and between the 3 of them there just isn't room. It's a corner that starts off light and just keeps tightening through turns 1 and 2, and eventually there just wasn't room. And up the front here, Craig Edwards has gotten into the lead. Bo Albert also up a position into second. Peasnick searching for redemption now. He's trying to get past Bo Albert. We'll have to see if there is going to be potentially a pit lane drive-through penalty or a stop and hold for Peasnick. Did he jump that start enough that it's going to attract a penalty? He came to a stop almost immediately, but will expect a penalty, I'm sure.
I think he did because he was at least half a car length out of where he would have been lined up. So I'd have no hazard of a guess that would be a jump start. So I would not be surprised to see Peasnick in here in the first 1 or 2 laps in the pit lane, but it will not count as his stop, as their fuel window it's short, but it's not short enough they can stop on the first lap. So we'll see what Peasnick does here.
Watching Marie Hruska, who's in 6th place, up 2 spots from where she started, and looking very, very quick in a straight line compared to Michael Healy. There's black flag for John Peasnick, so he's probably had 3 laps to serve his penalty from jumping that start. But Hruska jumps through turn 1 ahead of Michael Healy, so up 3 spots for Hruska, and now she's going to potentially grab another one. Gutschel, that car is not looking good from the start, so he's going to have to try and get that fixed. As it comes through the S's here, though, Healy looks a bit quicker there as well, and we can't take our eyes off this battle up the front either. Your top 6 cars, there's nothing more than a second to separate each of the gaps. Edwards leads, Albert in second, Peasnick in third, big question mark over him, and then in fourth, Cam Dance, and then Hruska and Healy. Great battle for the top 6 as they come into the hairpin for the second time, and Bo Albert's looped it around there, Corey.
That might have been, that did look suspicious, but looks like he had a bit too much rear brake balance. And the car just stepped around a bit. We'll get a motion simulation replay of that one. Actually, I don't think it was brake balance at all. It might have been just because you do have to blip on the downshifts in these cars. Might have been just a mistimed downshift. Oh, it does look like it though. He does lose the rear as he just about turns into the corner. We'll go back to live. So Bo has dropped down into what is 6th position, but as they're side by side into 130R, they will get it done though.
It's as committed as you'll ever see there, Corey, isn't it? This very, very fast corner. It's very brave to try and put your nose to the inside there. It's also very brave to try and hang it around the outside. And here is John Peasnick, your pole sitter, coming in to serve his penalty for jumping the start. It elevates, Craig Edwards holds on to the lead, but elevates a lot of positions behind. And now Bo Albert's trying to recover behind Michael Healy, who's trying to get back past Marie Hruska. And through all of this, Cameron Dance up 2 spots into 2nd place. From 6th on the grid, finding himself in 2nd place right now. Absolutely, we thought there was going to be some surprises in this race, and we've had a few already.
Yep, and Dance does have a very comfortable gap between him and Hruska, so, but that battle pack for 3rd, which would have been 4th if Peasnick didn't get a penalty. But you can see Hruska's pulling a little bit away from Healy, but Albert is catching Healy at a good pace. Into the hairpin they come. Will it be a repeat? He looks to the inside. Nice move. Will he get it done? Yes, he will. Clears him easily and gets to drive out the corner. Healy flashes lights a little bit, telling him, you know, that wasn't too bad of a move there, Albert. As they come into Spoon, Hruska's now got a bigger gap between herself and Albert now, so. But back behind them, Gardner and Mazzoma are having a little old fight in the Spoon for 9th position.
Yeah, some of our SimSpeed friends here, Sion Mazzoma and Reese Gardner. Mazzoma missing, I'd say, both apexes in the Spoon corner, and he snapped. It's overcorrected. He's into the wall. The pressure of Reese Gardner has gotten to him. Of course, Gardner went around in first corner the first lap. He's trying to recover a little bit. That was a very uncharacteristic accident from Mazzoma there. You watch, he just doesn't get it turned in towards the apex. There's understeer right until the point he puts the throttle down. Then it's oversteer, snaps, corrects, hard into the outside wall in Spoon Corner. Big damage for Simon Mizomo. He's going to have to bring that onto pit lane, and it's still too early to be able to brim the tank and get to the end. So we look further up. Simon Black and Wayne Hewitt, who are having a battle over 7th place. Hewitt had a great move through 130R earlier, and now he's caught up to Simon Black, so not fantastic qualifying for Wayne Hewitt. In fact, I recall maybe there was no qualifying at all, but here in the race, he's certainly looking pretty good, trying to make another position.
Yeah, Hewitt did not set a qualifying lap, but he didn't make the grid, and he is battling for 7th place with Simon Black, so we'll see what he can do. He is within draft reach. He can get him under the draft, but depends on how committed he is through these corners.
He made the move into 130R the previous time. Maybe he's got quite a bit of straight line speed. He has a look in the hairpin as we ride on board rearward facing from Simon Black. Pretty comfortable is Wayne Hewitt, but if you're going to get alongside someone before 130R, that suggests a relatively trimmed out, pretty high top speed on the car. And we see it here, 6th gear as they're approaching towards Spoon Curve. Hewitt just wasn't that much better out of the hairpin, but just once they get up to 5th and 6th gear, he's through once again, wide through the second apex for Simon Black. Keeps it out of the wall, unlike his fellow Simon Mizomo, and here they are side by side. Wayne Hewitt, he must love this section of the track. He's got the inside into 130R. How bold will these two be? I think Black wisely backs out of it so he can turn in towards the apex, carry the speed through, but Hewitt just about has it done. Flashback up to the top 3 because they're swapping positions there as Bo Albert is on his recovery run.
Yep, has gone easily by Maria Hrushka. Now flashes the flash. I think we're gonna replay with that move, but flash the lights at Cam, telling him that I'm coming for you next. You are next on my hit list. As we'll get a replay of that move. I wonder where he got this done. Let's see. So I'm guessing this would be a little move down the outside around to the Casio triangle, and look at that, perfectly placed the car to the inside and was clear enough. Maria didn't really thought she was pushed off the circuit there, but there was easily enough gap. So Bo Albert now on the podium, but he still has one more position to get, which he wants. And now Gardner is into the pit lane, I think, either to get fuel or for something other reason. But we'll go back up to Battle Pack for 3rd as Cam Dance.
So deep into the hairpin, very, very slow through there. Now Hrushka gives Bo Albert the Bo Albert treatment, flashing those lights because it's caused him to check up as well. Hairpin, it's a bit hit and miss, famine and feast for Bo Albert, sometimes losing some time through there, going for a spin, other times making some great moves through there. 2nd place and back, this is your great place to watch, and a lot of drivers struggling with that second apex of Spoon Curve. Here they go side by side. Bo's gonna squeeze her! Bo squeezed all the way he could across onto Marie Hrushka, and that has sent him into this short little pit lane here. Huge incident for Bo Albert. That's race just about done. We're gonna have to see a second angle on that one because I don't think that was Hrushka's fault. I think she just got squeezed a bit to the left there. Bo coming off the second best there. Huge hit into that pit building.
That was more of a case of Maria didn't want to give anything else up, and it was a bit of the battle of the case. But as Hrushka looks for a move into turn 1, Cam Dance on the outside, Hrushka on the inside, through 2. Drag race down to the S's into 3, and I think, Hrushka will let him go. And now Healy is on the back of these two. The battle for 2nd is heated up. And behind
from nowhere in 5th, it's Talk Inc.'s Ashley Lear who's on this train, and he's just stealthing his way up as everyone else battles, collides, spins, whatever. No issues for him so far. He's on for a great result as it stands right now.
Yeah, he's just been quietly sneaking through the field, keeping assists and not getting involved in a lot of battles. And while these other guys do, a little bit of a moment there for Lear out of the second Degner. Got it though. Still stays within this train of 3. Krushka very close to the rear of Cam Dance there.
Very, very pointy is that vet. Some of the Aston Martin drivers struggling to turn in towards the apex in some points, but through the slower corners and even through the second part of Spoon here, Hrushka has no problems getting the nose of that Corvette towards the apex. He's just trying to set up a much later apex out of Spoon. Bit of traction loss, bit of wheel spin from Cam Dance. She's closing up. Can she do anything into 130R this time? Well, Dance is going to try and defend too wide through 130R again. No, Hrushka backs out this time, but that's an action spot. Now they're going to be side by side again, Corey.
Hrushka on the outside into the Casio triangle, and Cam Dance will clear her before they get into the second part. Coming to there, looking at they're all trying to use as much track as they want to. They don't want the rear of that car snapping around, and now there's even space between all four of these cars. Down the front straight into turn one.
And that last lap from Cam Dance, a 56.4 with all of that battling. It lost a bit of time. Now even Wayne Hewitt in 6th place is trying to catch up on this train. His last lap, a 54.9, so he's closed up a bunch of seconds on this train. As Dance, Hrushka and Healy continue to battle, it brings some cars we haven't seen in the top 5 this season, like Leah and Hewitt, to really be able to come up there and have a go of it. This is a great race, even if we've lost a few drivers. There's nothing to separate these.
Yeah, well, and if I was Hewitt at the moment, I'd be hoping that these guys battled a little bit more, because now that train is much more bigger, and it's a little bit spread out than what it was before, but it is a bigger train, so it'll have to go. Once again, Cam Dance running a little bit of a higher line, as you would speak, through the hairpin, which gave Hrushka a little bit of an advantage on the exit. I might have gave it to Cam, but I think that top line speed from Corvette and the draft into Spoon had a look, but wasn't really going to go for the bomb. So now she's got to get the exit of Spoon here. Dance way wide at the apex. Hrushka got it nice and perfectly down the back straight. Hrushka will have slipstream and the speed of that Corvette. Follows him side by side again into 130R, and I think Hrushka will get the overspeed. No, she won't. Side by side, 130R. One of them had to give, it was Hrushka, but did not give up the place. Only gave a little bit of track into the Casio triangle. Still side by side. No contact needed for good racing like this. And Hrushka finally got the move done. Lear into pit lane. Healy now is going to have a look here. Down the front straight. Hrushka's defending that position. Healy
None of them are on the racing line. All three of them to the right hand side. Round the outside comes Dance. Can he stick it? Yes, he can. That was from just about nowhere. Hrushka might have been caught napping, looking at what Healy was doing. So Dance gets back into second place. Hrushka's in third, and Healy fancies his option.
Healy was really good there. He could have got a place from that, but he just stayed back a little bit, saved some fuel behind Hrushka as those two are battling. And Lear thought, screw this, and he's went for the pit lane, and I think it'll help him. He's now back out on track. It might help him because if these three keep going, they might lose second place to Lear. Because this battle is good. You can see Dance does gap the Corvette a little bit of Hrushka through the S's, but from the hairpin onwards, it's just, the Corvette, Hrushka thought of a move, locked it up. All three of them had a good move into the hairpin. No contact, which is good. So I think Healy's going to have a look here at Hrushka. Into Spoon they go. Hrushka's further back from Cam Dance. Watch out before there's contact. Healy did hit Hrushka there, but I think Hrushka will come back on track. No one spun, which is good, but that will hurt those two massively. We'll get a replay of that one.
We'll have a different angle here. Did Healy get caught out and get too late on the brakes? Hrushka brake about the same point as Cam Dance in front, and then Healy comes in, gives a little bump. Hrushka's lucky to have some of that runoff area there to be able to use to recover. Holds onto the spot. We look further back. Reese Gardner, Ashley Lear, and John Peasnick's gotten through on Lear, but Lear and Gardner, two drivers who've both taken a pit stop. So I believe this should be a totally legitimate battle for position. Healy decides he's out of that battle. He's going to take his pit stop, try and get clear of some of that craziness, maybe fix his nose up a little bit. But Gardner on the recovery drive, taking a look at Leah.
Yeah, and also Pizik as well as on that recovery drive, because we shouldn't really count him. We shouldn't count him from this battle because he is still got a stop of fuel, I do believe, and he'll take it there right now. Gardner, bit of opposite lock there through one of the most committed corners on the exit of this circuit. So Pizik is now into the pits. He's going to take his fuel, meaning that this battle, Leah and Gardner, is for 7th place and will be a legitimate battle. They're all going tooth and nail for it. Even though it's for a 7th position, it is still points in the bank for the championship.
Yeah, and Leo was right on the back of that 2nd place train when he pitted. Gardner, of course, obviously also pitted. That suggests pit stop adjusted. Gardner's not out of the running for some good points as well. There's a lot to still happen. And Michael Healy, though, has taken his pit stop, and he's ended up quite a bit further ahead of Ashley Leah than we might have expected. We'll see how that one plays out, but obviously your top 5 haven't pitted, and everyone from there on down, Healy's the first of the drivers that have pitted, and then Leah, and then Gardner.
But this battle for 2nd place at the moment, it is heated up because Perushka has gained some time on Dance down the straights, and she's got the slipstream still of Dance. This is a pure Aston Martin versus Corvette GT1 battle right here at Suzuka. They're both going hard at it. Which one will pit? None of them will. Perushka will. She will pit. So she'll come in from 3rd position on track. So, and by the looks of things, Pizik has decided to retire the car. So he won't get a lot of points from this race. It's back to that battle for 7th. Gardner and Leah still goes on. Gardner has a little look and will get overlap in 130R side by side. Leah will let him go. Really good job there by us two. They're battling hard now. Leah's going to have a look on the outside into the Casio triangle. Won't get a stop though. Had a bit of opposite lock on the brakes. So Gardner will now pull ahead of Leah. And that means that he'll be 7th position. But there we go. Up just in front there, you see Perushka coming out of the pits. Will come out just ahead of Healy. Here we go. Take 2 of this battle. So Healy has got, well, you could say a little hotter tyres than what Perushka's got because he just went down pit lane. So Perushka might pull out a little bit from Healy, but the Corvette power cannot overcome the Aston Martin grippiness for the S's here.
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see these two battle without Cameron Dance in front of them and wonder when he will stop. It's only lap 10 of 22. And I imagine it might be able to go as deep as lap 16 on the starting fuel. Just a lot of drivers deciding to get out of the traffic. It'll all close up just a little bit more later on in the race. And you see here, through the first sector, Hrushka's just pulled a couple of tenths on Healy. That can really ebb and flow, especially with the track temps as hot as they are. No one is putting in perfect or clean laps. It got a bit hot in qualifying when it was 35 degrees Celsius, now up to about 38. And you can see that with how some of the drivers struggle with that. Now 3/4 of a second that Hrushka has over
Dance! Sorry to cut in there, but Dance with a little bit opposite lock is now in the pit, so we're now going to see how this battle for 2nd will come out. So now Hewitt will take 2nd place on track, but don't forget he still owes us a pit stop to kill. So, and well, we could talk about Edwards, but he's got a massive gap that he's only just riding around there doing laps really to win the race. But he still owes us a pit stop. But back to the battle for what would be provisional 3rd at the moment. As they come down the front straight, will they
Long
get
stop for Dance.
Oh, he must be taking
10
repairs.
seconds. 12 seconds now. It was a 6-second stationary for the likes of Hrushka and Healy. Did Cam speed into the pit lane? If it gets going with about 22 seconds stop time, then that's what it will be. I think that is speeding on entry to pit lane for Cameron Dance. I could be wrong, but his pit stop time about 15 seconds longer than Hrushka and Healy have already come and cleared on through. And in fact, Dance has come out the pit lane behind Reese Gardner, Ashley Leah, and Simon Black. So back into 8th place. Costly pit lane error for Cam Dance, who was fighting for 2nd place, now in 8th.
And yes, Haynes, I can confirm that was a pit lane speed penalty on entry for Dance. So that's not what he wanted here to sort of start off the second half of this championship. But anyways, back to the battle for third. It's extended a little bit. Marira's got a gap on Healy. About a second now between the Corvette and the Aston Martin. So that battle is a true battle for position. So the only
dance is great news for Rushka and Healy. Rushka is now effective net second place and Healy effectively third. And that means up 6 positions from the qualifying spot for Rushka and up 4 for Healy. Wayne Hewitt stays out, Craig Edwards stays out. Those two drivers going long as they can on their fuel, and Craig Edwards is also still the fastest car on the last lap. He's extending that lead, not under any risk of being undercut. Just running a perfect race like we've seen him do a few times this season. That's why he's your points leader. Untroubled. Sure, not the pace of Gutschel or Piesnik or even Bo Albert, but just flawless drive so far for Craig Edwards. And here is the sole remaining JPR racing car down in 10th place.
Yeah, well, he's those JPR cars have not had a really good race this race because John Piesnik, as we all know, is now sadly out of the race from pole start. Gutschel did get caught up in that turn 1 incident. He's starting to make a recovery drive though. We'll try and see if he can get into those single-digit places as the race goes on. We are now over halfway in this race, so we've got another 11 or so laps to go of this beautiful Suzuka circuit.
After that horrible issue we saw for him, Simon Mizomo is leaving the pit lane again. So he's re-entering the circuit, but he is, as I see it, about 5 laps down. That's a rather interesting looking pit stop time there, 540 seconds. But he's back out on track, and that means he might just be able to put in enough laps to jump ahead of John Piesnik, who completed 8 laps before parking it. So just aiming for a result for Simon Mizomo. We're waiting on a pit stop still for Craig Edwards and for Wayne Hewitt. Wayne Hewitt's going to be the interesting one to see where he might come out. Will it be ahead of Ashley Lear? Will it be ahead of even Reese Gardner? We won't know just yet because he stays on circuit and doesn't take to the pit entry. So we are, as you said, past halfway in this race. Fuel will need to be taken sometime soon in the next couple of laps for Edwards and Hewitt, but they are really stretching those Aston Martin tanks as far as they'll go.
And I think the reason why is because Wayne might be trying to do the overcut strategy on Hrushka and Healy, but if they were both battling, it could work for Hewitt, but at the moment it's not. Well, actually, it might be because the gap between Hewitt and Hrushka has stayed very similar the past couple laps. It is a big enough gap that Hewitt might come out just in front of Hrushka, maybe in between the battle for what would be second. But we'll see what happens here with Hewitt, because he's still over the pit stop. We're a couple of laps away from the optimal or the maximum cutoff for fuel, which would be 16 laps. Craig Edwards is the same. He's in the same boat. He still owes us 1 pit stop. So there's only 3 or 4 cars out there that have still owe us a pit stop, and 2 of them are first and second at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. And the last lap from Craig Edwards was a 54.5, way quicker than everyone else. But Wayne Hewitt put in a 55.8, not as quick as Hrushka, Healy, or Gardner behind, but quicker than Lear and quicker than Black. So he might find himself somewhere between 5th and 6th place. That's certainly what his pace looks like as Chris Barnes, 10th place, takes his pit service, comes out, stays just on the lead lap for the moment.
Yep, so Edwards, you said they didn't take pit entry. What about Hewitt? Will he take the pit entry? Yes, he will. So this is the deciding factor in the race for second place. Enters the pit now. Oh, that might have been a little bit of speeding penalty there.
Certainly he had to jump on the brakes a second time after he passed the cones that denote the start of the pit lane speed limit. Bit of a slower 60 k's an hour here. Obviously, Bathurst also a slower pit lane, but some of the other circuits we've visited have pit lane speed limits closer to 72 kilometers an hour. So here comes Hrushka. She'll assuredly grab second place.
Oh, she will, but will Hewitt come out in between
No penalty.
Healy? I think not.
Hewitt is coming out of the pit lane here, very, very neck and neck with Healy, so he'll come out ahead of Reese Gardner, who's now 5th place. So it's been a good run, staying out longer for Wayne Hewitt. That's a pretty good decision, it looks like now.
Yep, he's went for the overcut. I mean, it didn't gain him any spots, but it did do him well strategy-wise. So now Reese, he's not within slipstream yet of Hewitt, but he might get himself a really good result here after what happened at turn 1.
4th place right now for Hewitt after starting effectively back of the grid with no qualifying time. So just finding some clean track, putting in his own pace, his own laps, not getting caught up in anyone else's issues, has benefited Hewitt. Mizomo back in the pit lane for the 3rd time this race. Look at the battle for 3rd, because it's just under a second, Healy to Hewitt. What's Healy's pace been the last couple laps? It's not too bad. So Hewitt is, I'm not sure, going to catch especially quickly, but you never know whose tyres are going off worse throughout this race and in the hotter temperatures. Of course, the pit stops just fuel, not enough time to take a set of tyres.
Lock up there for Hewitt going into the second spoon apex there. So, but the track at the moment has risen to 39 degrees. It hasn't risen to the 40s yet, but as that track temp keeps rising, the tire will keep degrading more and more. So it's going to be a question of who saved their tires the most for the last 3 or 4 lap dash of the flag. As I think that gap between Hewitt and Gardner has closed up a little bit, but not too much. See, what is the line here? It is just under a second between Healy and Hewitt, and it's around about a second between Hewitt and Gardner. So even gap. But at the moment here, you can see now Cam Dance is trying to recover some spots and points.
He pulled a second and a half on the last lap. Obviously, 15-second hold in the pit lane for speeding on the entry for Cam Dance. He's looking to try and grab 7th place. And of course, if it was a second and a half last lap around, you can see how quickly that gap to Simon Black has dissolved. The question is, where can Dance stick a pass? Will it be into the hairpin? Will it be into Spoon, into 130R? Or will he have to be patient? There's only a few good overtaking opportunities on this track, and we've even seen that into the hairpin, it's very easy to spin the car around if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think Dance. Oh, Black, a little bit of a moment there on the curb. A lot of drivers have been having that moment out of the second egg on the exit curb, but into the hairpin, it won't be a move. Black does defend the inside now. Edwards is in for his stop, but back to this. Simon Black, Cameron Dance going hard at it. So I think there might be a move into 130R. Dance is close, but I think like close enough into Spoon. Very close to the rear bumper of Black. He's going to try and get a run here. Black is a little significantly slower on the apex. Cam had to check up a tiny bit. Down the back straight into 130R. Dance has got the slipstream and the top speed. I think he'll have to wait until the Casio triangle, or he'll go for it now. Black lets him go easily. Cam Dance now up into 7th spot. So, whoop, Black, no, he won't go back at it. But now, battle for 3rd has closed up a lot. 7/10 is now down to 3/10 this lap. But Reese Gardner is very far away from this battle. Nearly over 2 seconds away now from Wayne Hewitt. Well, it is actually over 2 seconds, 2.5 to be exact. So,
yeah, nearly matching their times last time as Reese Gardner, but he can't close up on this battle. And Hewitt, what a story if he could put himself on the podium from starting effectively dead last. He's going to give it a go. Hewitt's pace has dropped off just the tiniest bit, and it's really come towards Hewitt. Maybe he's getting more and more comfortable with the car as it goes on. He obviously didn't put a lap in qualifying, might not have been as accustomed to the conditions as some of the drivers who were out there all qualifying, and now finding his feet underneath him, finding his confidence, and starting to ratchet up the pressure on Healy for the final spot on the podium.
Yeah, Healy's last lap was a full 6 tenths slower than Hewitt, but Gardner's lap was 2 tenths slower. Well, I think it was 2 tenths slower. Yeah, it was 2 tenths slower than Hewitt. So Gardner and Hewitt have got pace over Healy from the last lap, but I don't know if Hewitt can get Healy. He does have the slipstream, Noel. A big, strong slipstream down the back straight. That gap is pulled out a bit, but let's see what the slipstream can do. It could pull it in. Into 130R they go. Hewitt has to check up more than Healy into the Casio triangle. Looks
Hewitt.
close, but won't be close. Hewitt locks it up. Gets through it.
Playing gear with all of the curbing, with all of the AstroTurf, not only through 130R, through the Casio triangle, he's hanging it all out, not being quite so conservative. He's trying to close that gap down. Of course, you see it's just 3 tenths. Slipstream matters quite a bit once they get towards 6th gear. Can't do anything into turn 1 though. Quite wide of the apex goes Michael Healy. Hewitt's not going to be able to pass through the S's though.
No, he can't, because it's basically a one line affair through here. Not really any opportunity to pass him, but he's very, very close. We could see him move into the hairpin if he can do it. Very close. See on board there with Healy. He's pretty much right under his rear wing. Healy's mirror would be full of the number 12 Aston Martin car of Hewitt. Into the Degners they go. Hewitt does run wide, won't help him a lot, but still keeps the gap. Went wide out of both Degners and still keeps the gap pretty close. Very, very wide exit there from Hewitt. Had a bit of understeer, I think, mid-corner. Healy got a
My
really good run.
imagination, or is Gardner looming just a little bit closer? If these two keep battling, he could turn a top 5 into something slightly better. The gap's still just about 2 seconds. But Healy, we saw, starting to feel the pressure, went wide of the apex in the first sector. Hewitt's maybe close enough to have a look into 130R. Healy's going to go to the left-hand side a little bit, thinking about covering it off. How quickly is Hewitt closing the gap up? Not enough to go side by side into 130R.
Oh.
Danger zone with all of that slippery AstroTurf on the outside. Hewitt isn't bothered. He's trying everything.
Hewitt is trying every little trick in the book. He's pushing 10 tenths in that car to try and catch Healy. They're both basically matching lap times. 55.8 compared to a 55.8 between those two.
55.2 for Gardner, so he closes up 6 tenths on that lap. It wasn't 100% my imagination. Healy again through turn 2, struggling. He's a bit more planted around the rest of the lap, but there, he's just not quite got whatever Wayne Hewitt has got for confidence, for turn-in, for setup. Just as I say that, these tricky S's, they catch out Hewitt just a little bit. Front left or front right lock-up, drags the tyre across the surface. Still putting the pressure on Healy though.
Oh, Gardner in the background has spun around. Gardner in the background spun around. I don't know what happened there. All I had to see was a spinning 26 car.
Able to get the power down through Dunlop Curve. Here comes a modem simulation replay. We'll see what happened for Gardner. So through the right-hander that leads into Dunlop Curve. Teeny bit of the apex and then putting the throttle down through Dunlop Curve. Huge wiggle, nearly saves it. Bigger wiggle, around it goes. No harm done to the car, but just not working with the rear grip. That's clearly he was trying everything to be able to catch that battling pair of 3rd and 4th. What it has done is put him back with Cam Dance, and these two, again, more of our SimSpeed boys battling it out. Dance has had a tough race, and Gardner too. So these guys fighting for redemption with 4 laps to go.
Yep, Dance is going to get the slipstream speed from Gardner. They're going to go side by side. Cam will let him have the room, but Cam will get overlap, run down the outside into the Casio triangle. Will he get this overlap? He'll get it, and he'll clear him as well. But Gardner might get a better exit here. A little bit of rear wiggle there from Gardner. Down the front straight they go. tucked right under Cam Dance's rear wing. Cam Dance will get offensive on the slipstream. Gardner will get a little bit of overlap, but not enough to initiate it over, pass around the outside into one. Through two they go. But now Gardner has lost a spot from that mistake. But he's still close to Danso through the S's. He's still getting him, and he wants that position. He won't get a. He won't
Like
get fifth.
watching my children fight. I just don't want either of them to get hurt. You know, play nice, fellas. So Dance has taken that spot from Gardner. And I'm sure you and I will hear something about that later.
Yeah, I think we'll hear some weird New Zealand English from Cam Dance about how sick that battle was. But anyways, back up the front to third and fourth position. The gap has climbed a little bit up, but it's not big enough for Healy to be slipstream free from Hewitt. Because Hewitt is still within a second of him, and we still have 4 laps to go, or 3 laps to go this time by. So we'll see what those two can do. Same thing with Dance and Gardner. Dance really wide there. Pushed it a lot there through the first spoon curve, and Gardner as well. Out of the second one, just a little bit too much understeer through the corner, but he will get slipstream down the back straight to 130R. It's either he had to hit the brakes earlier than Dance because of the overspeed he had. And the cloud cover, I think, just starting to come over here a little bit, which will help some of these guys in the battles. Actually, it's come over a lot that the track dropped to 36 degrees. Battle lap to the third is still at it. Hewitt closed the gap, but sadly he's going to close him in the S's.
Yeah, 3 laps to go when they crossed the line that time, so time is running out. Everyone's taking their pit stops. These two battles are just going to have to be fought on track with pace, with racecraft, and with whatever these drivers have got left of tyres underneath them. Reece Gutschel back in the pit lane again for the second time. I don't know what that's about. Did he not have enough fuel assist repairs? It's a long stop. He might have damaged that car out there somewhere on track. It's a battle for our final spot on the podium, not resolved. Hewitt got so close into the first sector, and now through the S's has lost out a little bit. What can he find on the back stretch? He's been so good towards the run to 130R.
Yeah, I think he did have a bit of front tyre conserved, and now he just used it all trying to get past and catch Healy. So that's why he's lost a lot of speed through the S's. We would see him catch up now through Spoon, very wide there. So I think he's lost a lot of front tyre grip in that car. He's understeering more and more as the race concludes to its end. And the 130R is too far back for a move, but just close enough for slipstream though.
It's 2 laps to go. Craig Edwards is got a very comfortable lead of 15 seconds. He's started those 2 laps remaining, and then the 2 battles that we've got on circuit. Well, we were watching Healy and Hewitt. Hrushka on your screen in second place. She's got 5 seconds over third place. We flick back to that battle. Then Dance and Gardner. That one in the favour of Cameron Dance right now. Ashley Leah is in 5th place, sort of in the no man's land between the 2 battles that we've got going on right now. Dance is trying to pull away from Gardner, can't quite pull enough of a gap. It'd be tough to see Gardner finding enough pace to close that back up without any mistakes. And Simon Black's having a pretty reasonable run, not too far away from anyone, but in 8th place. So our eyes then go back up to this battle, the final spot on the podium. Hewitt looks like sometimes he's got the pace, but now Healy's just settled it down. It's looking harder and less likely for Hewitt to be able to grab that spot away.
Yeah, I do think that Healy's has conserved more, or is conserving his front tyres over Hewitt, because Hewitt the past couple laps that car's been understeering a lot mid-corner than what it was before towards the start of this basically second stint. As they come through Spoon here, we'll see what happens to Hewitt here. They're both pretty close to the apex. on the exit, they're both going to use the same amount of curb. So Hewitt's got that car hooked up again. Half a second now, closes up the 4/10 down the back straight. Will he get enough slipstream though? That's the question. He gained about a 10th, maybe 2/10 there. Uses up all the exit curb. Healy didn't. Into the Casio triangle they come. So I think Hewitt has got enough front tire, but back down to this second battle. Reese Gardner is as close as ever been so far. Going a little bit wide to the apex of 130R. Into the Casio triangle. Cam didn't use a lot of curb there, but Reese did on the first part. Nothing on the second. The
These
two
two
battles.
have pulled up the pace in the 54s for the first time. Healy and Hewitt both set their fastest lap of the race on the last time by. There's been a little bit of cloud cover, that's helped, but these two flying along, both of them putting in everything they've got. Same for 6th and 7th. What's happened to Cam Dance? His pace dropped off just a bit, and Reese Gardner is all over him now. I'm quite confident that Reese would very much love to take this position away from Cameron Dance, not just for the points, but the bragging rights.
And also, this is the white flag lap, so everything is on for young and old now.
Yeah, that's correct. So Gardner running out of time. Hewitt running out of time to put a move on. Craig Edwards running flawlessly and only has to complete one more 5.8 kilometer circuit of this track to take another win in OSR GT1. What can Gardner do into the hairpin? He's going to have a go. I think Dance has just got it covered. Saw him coming, left the room, but didn't need it. So Gardner closing towards Spoon Curve. Gonna quickly take a look. Craig Edwards exits the final corner. Checkered flag will wait for him. He's your race winner. Perfection. Hrushka, couple seconds clear of 3rd and 4th. She'll take 2nd place without any issues, hopefully. And then this is a battle 3rd and 4th. Hewitt trying everything on the braking zone into the Casio triangle. Can't do it. Ashley Leah looks pretty comfortable in 5th, so we'll have to take a look at the 6th and 7th battle, Corey.
Well, yep, here we go into the Casio triangle. Gardner will have a massive look. Tried to use all the brakes he can, had a little bit of rear of the car, didn't want to do anything, and out of the corner drifts it. But Cam Dance wins that basically SimSpeed battle over Gardner. And then behind them, Simon Black will finish in 8th. That is it of your finishes on the race. We'll go to the unofficial results. David Haynes, you want to read them out?
Yeah, so your winner, Craig Edwards, with a very, very comfortable margin there, controlling the pace, doing everything right, staying out long as he could on his fuel tank, takes the win ahead of Marie Hrushka, who in the end picks up a good bag of points and is your leading Chevrolet Corvette C6R. In that battle we were watching, Healy gets 3rd, Wayne Hewitt gets 4th place, 5th place goes to Ashley Leah, and then in the SimSpeed commentators battle, Cameron Dance keeps ahead of Reese Gardner, and 8th place goes to Simon Black.
And the rest of the field, sadly, all these guys did not take the checkered flag. You've got Reese Gushel, Chris Barnes, John Pearson, Simon Mazzomo, and Bo Albert sadly getting put into the little West Circuit pit lane and sadly did Alt F4, DNF the race after that point.
Yeah, indeed, and then a couple of drivers not taking the start there. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Really not the hugest field we were hoping for, but in the end, great action. Always some racing to watch, little bit of strategy, and the fact that these GT1 cars just a little bit more difficult to drive than modern GT cars really gave us some fantastic battles. It was great to bring coverage of that one. We'll be back the same time next Thursday when this series heads to Charlotte Roval. That's going to be one to watch as well. But Saturday, we've got coverage of Majors Nürburgring 2.4 hour, and Sunday, next Sunday, obviously not this Easter, is V8 Scops from Phillip Island. So plenty coming up for SimSpeed. Make sure to subscribe to our channel here. Follow us with our various socials, including Facebook, and you'll keep up to date with all of the fantastic sim racing that we will be bringing you. I've been David Haynes, Corey Ott alongside me, and pulling the broadcast together in the production side, Jay Kennedy. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get involved.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?